use of Christianity in Africa to divide, rule, and suppress the people.
Now, let me tell you, sir. When missionaries came to South Africa, they deliberately created a huge wave of enmity between those blacks that they converted and those blacks who resisted Christian conversion. They created such a divide that they actually broke up huge families. And it got worse when Catholics, Anglicans, Methodists, and Presbyterians spread through South Africa. There was developed deliberately in Africans of different religious denominations the same enmity that exists now between the Catholics and the Protestants in England. Black Protestants were forbidden from talking to black Catholics. Black Wesleyans did not even ask the time of day from black Presbyterians. It was such a total chaos, and the only beneficiaries were the missionaries themselves. But let me tell you more what used to be done. Missionaries used to forbid any converted Christian black from having anything whatsoever to do with an unconverted black. Love relationships between so-called heathen blacks and Catholic blacks were forbidden by the missionaries. That was how my father and my mother parted, traumatizing my life even before I was born. My father had been a confessing Catholic, and he fell in love with what was called a heathen Zulu woman. Now, the condition for such a love was that the woman had to submit herself into the Christian faith. And my grandfather, a fierce old warrior, contemptuously refused to have my mother become a Christian convert. I used to kill white men at Isandlwa, and I am not going to allow a daughter of mine to follow the religion of spear food. And say, if in a mission station a church-going black paid court to a heathen black, the church-going black was brutally punished by the missionary, and he was punished in a way which to Africans was horrible. Inside the mission church, there were the pews, the benches on which the congregation sat. But next to the door, just as you entered the door of the church, there were special benches for those Christian blacks who had broken the law. And so, if it was found by the white missionary or the black missionary that a certain person had had anything to do with a heathen, that person was punished in a very terrible way. He or she was made to sit next to the door of the church inside, so that all who entered the church would look at this one and know that here is a lawbreaker who had broken the laws of Jesus Christ.
Were you pushed into the Christian religion to start with, Credo, before the penny dropped, if you like?
Yes, sir, I was. You see, after my mother and my father had separated, my mother gave birth to me. And for a long time, I suffered as a child because I was born illegitimate. I was called a bastard. I had no rights as a human being. The law of the Zulus at that time was very, very strict regarding illegitimate children. My mother suffered. She was often beaten up by other girls in the village. And I suffered too. Other children were forbidden from playing with me. And I herded cattle in the bush alone. And there, many strange things happened to me which do not concern us here, however. And when I was 7 years old, there came to my grandfather's village a brother of my father's, and he asked to take me away from there. And my grandfather said, nothing could please me more than that this little bastard should be removed from my home. He is a disgrace to my family. And so I was taken by my father's brother to the south of Natal, where I was baptized as a Catholic, and the ridiculous name Credo was placed upon my head. A name I hate very much, even to this day. I grew up, sir, as a Catholic. And we were all Catholics in our home, as most people in Natal are. And then one day, after we had left Natal, my father left the Catholic Church and adopted one of the worst branches of the Christian religion that you can find. My father started following the teachings of an American woman called Mary Baker Eddy. She, who was the leader of the Christian Science Church. Under the laws of the Christian Science Church, you are not allowed to take medicine under any circumstances, no matter how seriously ill you are. And for years we suffered, my half-sisters and my half-brothers and I. We sickened and we were not allowed to take any medicament. We had suffered before under the Catholic Church, having to confess sins every weekend to a priest we could barely see. Sometimes it was so ridiculous that we often created sins against ourselves we had not committed in order to please the Catholic Father. And now we were suffering under the teachings of Mary Baker Eddy, teachings which I now see in my adult life as having been the very essence of the purest rubbish. Then, after a great sickness in 1937, I was taken, during that great sickness, I was taken back to Zululand by my father's brother, Anton. And there I was healed by a man I had been conditioned to be looked upon as a stupid heathen, namely my grandfather, the father of my mother. After that, sir, I began to see how great the knowledge that the black people possessed was. I began to see that the missionaries were actually deceiving us, that they were teaching us lies at school about our people. And then one day I got into serious trouble. I was now a budding artist, painting pictures for the missions, and I made the mistake of portraying the Virgin Mary as a Zulu woman based upon my mother's face, and I portrayed Jesus Christ as a Zulu boy, and for that I was caned and expelled from school. The reason I was not caned, sir, by the white missionary only. I was caned also by the black teachers who accused me of having insulted Jesus Christ by painting him as a black. So you can see, sir, the stark mental confusion into which our people had been plunged. Men caning a boy because he had painted Christ as a black man, and saying that by blackening Christ's face, this boy had blasphemed.
Just makes you see, Credo, how easy it is for the few to control the world when most of the world gives its mind away.
Yes, sir, but one must understand, Mr. David Icke, that we human beings are weak creatures. We fall victim to ill health.